Hi, I'm Oliver Calmado, Principal of the International Macrobiotics School. Tomorrow night I'm starting an online course, a six-part course called Six Steps to Health or Six Steps to Wellbeing, in which I go through six of the major systems in the body and explain from particularly using Oriental medicine point of view and also from a Western medical point of view, how we can really increase the health in these different systems. And should we have developed health problems in these different systems, how we can improve and very often heal those health problems through a variety of means, including our food, breathing exercises, lifestyle changes, emotional changes, emotional healing, and so on. One of the things which I've always found very exciting about Oriental medicine is its holistic approach. So if we're wanting to understand how to improve the health of particular organ or part of the body, there's a whole range of different things that we can do to help. So to give you an example of what we're going to be studying, I'm going to choose one of the systems that we're going to be looking at, which is the lungs and the breathing system, and also in Oriental medicine, the lungs are very connected with the skin. So it may seem strange, but Oriental medicine is making a connection between a lot of different parts of the body, how different organs and parts of the body actually are really connected. So in Oriental medicine, they would see that weakness or imbalance in the lungs is a major cause of skin problems, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later on. So let's look at let's spend a few minutes looking at the lungs. So functions of the lungs. So we all know that the lungs are about breathing. We're breathing in oxygen, breathing out carbon dioxide and excess liquids. That's why when it's cold and we breathe on a piece of glass, it mists up because there's a lot of water vapor in our breath as well. So we're also getting rid of water vapor. So that's one function. Another function is that they are protecting the body. Of course, when we're breathing in tons of bacteria, viruses, fungi, and other microorganisms. And the lungs have to be very good at keeping these out of the body. It's quite easy with our skin. It can be quite thick. It doesn't have to let gases in and out. So it's very easy to make the skin to make a good barrier to the outside. But for the lungs, it's very difficult because it has to be very thin. Then, as I say, in Oriental medicine, and the health of the lungs is also underlying the health of the skin. If people develop skin problems like eczema, psoriasis, rashes, and so on, very often the underlying cause of that is an imbalance in the functioning of the lungs. And then, fourthly, in Oriental medicine, taking a more holistic view, not only are the lungs to do with an exchange of air, bringing air in, oxygen in, carbon dioxide, water vapor out. It's also exchanging energy with other people. So this is the part of our body, our heart and our lungs, where we exchange a lot of energy with other people. And you might notice that with some people, it feels like there's a lot of energy coming out. There's that kind of readiness to interact and communicate, and other people, there's just no energy coming out of them at all. That is telling you something about their lung energy. When people's lungs are in good health, then there's more energy there coming out to meet you, wanting to relate, wanting to communicate. When that is really absent, that is one of many kind of factors in Oriental health reading or Oriental diagnosis showing that the lungs are not functioning well. So four main functions. Then let's think about quite simply the main things which are really going to help the lungs. So first of all, food-wise, what we want to eat and what we want to avoid. So things we want to avoid: mucus-forming foods. Because if we eat a lot of mucus-forming foods, these create mucus in the lungs, the sinuses, the nose, they clog it up. It's actually natural for the lungs and the sinuses to be producing a very thin, quite watery mucus, which we don't even notice. This is the way that the lungs keep themselves clean. This very thin mucus is wafted along by tiny hairs on the cells lining the lungs, and it's brought up to the back of the throat where we swallow it. It goes down to the stomach, is digested. But if we're eating mucus-forming foods, then that mucus thickens, it clogs the lungs. Maybe they can't clean themselves. Maybe viruses, bacteria, etc. get more stuck in the lungs, and not only breathing be affected, but also our immunity, our ability to keep these microorganisms out of the body may be compromised. So this is one of the mysteries for me as to why Western medicine doesn't really recognize mucus-forming foods. Just about every other medical system in the world does. Oriental medicine, Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, naturopathic medicine, homeopathic medicine, etc., etc. At some point they'll probably discover this, and then they'll think that they've made a really amazing discovery. But actually it's been in traditional forms of medicine for at least a couple of thousand years. So which foods are mucus forming and which are not mucus forming? In general, you could say that mucus forming foods are foods which are somewhat refined and concentrated. So fats or sugars or refined carbohydrates get into the bloodstream very quickly, faster than the liver and the body can utilize and convert those foods. So they're traveling around the blood and inside the body, and including coming into the lungs, and then it starts creating mucus, maybe not just in the lungs, maybe extra wax in the ears, maybe vaginal mucus, maybe a more smelly skin because there's more stuff coming out of the skin. It's particularly if we're eating a lot of animal protein, then we can get breakdown products coming through the skin. So as is quite well known, people who are eating more meat and dairy foods have a stronger body odor than people who are eating a plant-based diet. The whole deodorant business is really based on people eating a fair amount of animal foods. If we all ate a much more plant-based diet, we would need much less in the way of deodorants, etc. So probably the most mucus-forming foods are dairy foods, milk and everything made from milk. Quite possibly, if one is leading a very active life, small amounts of, I think particularly whole milk is less mucus forming, but if we're eating significant quantities, it can easily become mucus forming. Plus skimmed milk, semi-skimmed, all of those things made from it. Cheese is pretty mucus forming. Yogurt perhaps a little bit less so, but actually still not particularly good for the lungs in quantity. Creams, butter, etc. too. These, because they're concentrated fats, get into the body very quickly, create mucus. Second category, sugar and refined carbohydrates. Sugar gets into the bloodstream very quickly. Refined carbohydrates, that means white bread, white flour, white pastry, white flour in cakes and biscuits and snacks and so on. Sweets get into the bloodstream quickly. Body can't utilize them fast enough. What the body likes is whole foods, which break down slowly, and then the liver and the rest of the body can utilize these foods as they're slowly absorbed in the intestines. So sugar, very mucus forming. Refined carbohydrates. Another category are very watery foods, including fruits or eating too much fruit. In some ways in the West, we've concentrated on good and bad foods. Eat less of the bad foods, eat more of the good foods. So, but this is very simplistic. So a fruit's good or bad. For most people, eating some fruit, particularly local fruit, rather than in colder climates, eating tropical fruits is definitely healthy. They're a valuable part of the diet. But we can also overeat fruits. Why? You may be thinking, well, yeah, but surely fruit's really healthy. Because fruit is very watery and soft and high in fruit sugars, maybe about 10% fruit sugars. So this has particular effects on the body and can produce more of a thin, watery mucus in the lungs, and can have a weakening effect on the lungs. If we're eating a lot of watery foods, then that congests the lungs. And this is why a lot of people with lung sinus-related problems find that when they go to a hot, dry climate, their problems clear up. Maybe some asthma improves, some hay fever, some allergies, some breathing problems, and also some skin problems in a dry climate clear up, because the lungs like dryness. They don't like a lot of wetness. And then, what I see often is people go from Northern Europe, go to Southern Europe where it's dry. These kind of lung-related problems clear up or improve, and then they come back to the UK, which is damp climate, and they get worse again. However, of course, we can adapt to living in different climates, and our food is how we take in our environment. And if we're eating a lot of wet foods or damp-forming foods, then this will also create mucus in the body. So I've seen many, many times that people, I'm going to talk about some lung problems, things like hay fever, asthma, catching infections easily, are made worse by eating a lot of fruit, and often improve when people really reduce their fruit intake, or maybe no fruit at all for a period of time. So these are some of the foods which are worst for the lungs, and then the ones which are best are the slow release foods and the dry foods. So slow release foods, these basically whole foods. When I got into macrobiotics in 1980, already for a couple of years I'd been into whole foods. I went down to the whole food shop and bought my whole grains, my whole beans, and my whole nuts, my whole seeds. And this is what our bodies have evolved to eat over millions of years, over at least several million years. So eating whole foods is mucus-free. So we're eating grains, brown rice, millet, barley, buckwheat, etc. When we flatten those into, say, porridge oats, can become a little bit mucus forming. And then if we make them into flour, little brown flour may be okay, but if we're consuming large amounts of flour, especially white flour, really become mucus forming. So we want to eat a lot of grains in their whole form still, plus a bit of noodles, flattened grains like porridge oats, also okay. Whole beans, lentils, things made from them like tofu and tempeh. Whole vegetables. In general, we don't want to peel our vegetables. If you buy some nice organic carrots, the last thing you want to do is peel them, because that's where a lot of the flavour and the minerals are, and they're much tastier if you don't peel them. Just need to scrub them well, and just need to have a scrubbing brush to scrub them. Whole seeds, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, sesame seeds, etc. Plus, we can eat some sea vegetables and all kinds of different whole foods. So these are going to be strengthening for the lungs, and not mucus forming. And also in the dessert department, most people like desserts. I see a few people in consultations who don't eat much in the way of desserts, but most people like desserts. They have a more relaxing, more sweet, more nourishing feel to them, something that we need. But we don't have to use sugar and highly refined grains to make desserts. In macrobiotics, one of the gifts of macrobiotics is we make tons of really nice desserts with using the natural sweetness from fruits, from dried fruits, more temperate climate fruits in a temperate climate, and fermented grains, and maybe a little bit of grain sweeteners like barley malt or rice syrup. If we use a lot of them, again, they'll become mucus forming, but if used in small amounts, it can be fine. So eating a whole food diet is going to help strengthen our lungs. Then also, we don't want to be over-consuming what in macrobiotic terms would be called more expansive or more yin liquids, because a lot of these liquids are going to come into the lungs, like drinking a lot of tea, coffee, a lot of fruit juice. Fruit juice was thought to be the elixir for everything, marvelous thing. But more and more people are realizing not only is it high in fruit sugars, and when you juice it, those sugars go into the bloodstream much faster than when you eat the whole fruit. Also they have this watery consistency. Also, a little bit of alcohol is okay if one's in good health, but a lot of alcohol and soft drinks, Coca-Cola, even if it's diet, Pepsi and etc. Soft drinks are really, really weakening for the lungs, really contribute a lot to lung weakness in the lungs. So a lot of kind of modern foods, sweets, Mars bars, soft drinks, Coca-Cola, it's sometimes I almost feel like crying, when I'm in a shop, buying some food, and people kind of buy something like, a bag of crisps, a Mars bar, and some Coca-Cola, for a kind of snack or their lunch. And all those foods so bad for the lungs, and then people are wondering, well, why do I pick up lung infections? Why am I getting some asthma or hay fever or blocked sinuses or other lung problems? Really not surprising. You need to eat whole foods. You need to go and get your whole food sandwich, with something good in the middle, some hummus or fish or something. And you could drink water or take a thermos of grain coffee or herb tea with you. If you want something sweet, then you maybe eat a little fruit, or make yourself a nice fruit crumble at home. Take along a bit of that with you in a container to eat. So we can do much better. So that's how to help the lungs on the food side. Also, with our lungs, they're designed to breathe. A lot of us spending a lot of time sitting in front of computers, just like we all are right now. This is not so great for the lungs. We need to get up and move and breathe deeply in order to really exercise our lungs. And the Oriental understanding is that not only are we breathing in oxygen, we're also breathing in key life energy. We want the more life energy we can bring into our body, then the more energy we have to enjoy our lives. We get energy from our food, from our water, but we also get energy from the air. This is why when you walk into a room that a lot of people have been in, the air's very stale. It's kind of, you're breathing, but it doesn't feel like you're getting any energy from the air. Then you stand on top of the mountain, you stand by the sea, and you take some deep breaths, and like one breath, you think, wow, I'm getting all this energy from breathing, just from breathing in. So we need to breathe deeply. We need to do some exercise. Doesn't have to be really intense exercise. Brisk walking is one of the best forms of exercise. And it may be yoga, tai chi, qigong, sweeping the house, gardening, etc. Also very good to do breathing exercises. It's very good to learn to breathe with your abdomen as well as the chest, so that we're breathing much more deeply. And in the classes, we'll be practicing various exercises, including breathing exercises. We look at specific exercises to help these 6 different systems as we go through them over 6 weeks. So those are a couple of more physical, practical things. Then, on a more emotional level, as I was saying, our lungs not only exchanging gases, our lungs are also, and our heart are also exchanging energy with other people, creating relationship. Relationship is not just exchanging words or ideas, it's exchanging feelings and energy. And this is what a lot of us may be lacking at the moment. We're missing that exchange of energy. It's not the same. A lot of people are realizing that as amazing as Zoom and online work has been, it's not the same as actually being with people. Why is that? You're exchanging ideas, you're talking, you have facial expressions. The reason, what we're missing is that when we're physically with people, we're exchanging energy with them. This can also happen at a 2-meter distance. It can be nice to be closer, and it can be nice to give people a hug or be physically really quite close. Touch is very nourishing for the body, and has recently been shown touch, massage, shiatsu, etc., being stroked actually helps activate the immune system. So Yeah, this is an exchange. So emotional exchange helps our lungs. If we're isolated, if children grow up in an isolated way, no friends, no peers, if the parents are not kind of open and exchanging and talking and stroking and hugging, then that will have a negative impact on the lungs. Anytime we're isolated for long periods of time, this has a negative effect on the lungs. And then the shoulders may start coming forwards and the chest becomes hollow. And then our breathing becomes shallow, and then we're getting less oxygen and key life energy into the body. And then we start developing lung problems and feeling depressed and cut off from the outside world. Another aspect of the lungs in Oriental medicine is that it affects our mental positivity or negativity. If the lungs are functioning well, we tend to have a positive view of life. There's a lot of fun to be had, even in these difficult times. There's things we can do. There's things we can do to entertain ourselves, learn. There's ways of interacting with people. Times may be tough, but there's we can take a positive attitude to it. If the lungs, if are not in good health, and if we're breathing very shallowly, then we naturally get downhearted, depressed, withdrawn, internalized, and look at everything in a negative way. Oh, this is bad, and this is bad, and oh, this is going to happen, and da, 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 da. Not fun to be around people who are in that kind of deep negative state. One of the things that can really lift in that state is doing some exercise, doing some aerobic exercise. Various studies have shown that actually quite aerobic exercise is as effective as some of the drugs used for depression in mild to moderate cases of depression. So a lot of people sedentary, not breathing deeply, need to exercise, need to do some breathing exercises to really help the lungs. So this is a quick run through of things that help the lungs. Just going to mention a few problems that this could be used for, many different kinds of lung problems. A few very common ones: hay fever. More and more people suffering from hay fever. Why is this? There's not more pollen, there's not more irritants out there. We've always lived in nature, so why is this happening? Coca-Cola, soft drinks, tea, coffee, sugar, refined carbohydrates, etc., weakening the lungs. And I've seen many people start eating a more whole food diet, start doing breathing exercises, etc., and really get some improvement or get rid of their hay fever. Breathing problems, including asthma. Asthma it's affecting what is it now? Kind of 1 in 8 children. I think the definition of it has been kind of broadened in Western medicine, needing to use inhalers. So the first thing, rather than using an inhaler, is eat whole foods. Stop drinking soft drinks, fruit juices. Stop eating sugar. Make some better quality desserts. Eat whole foods, whole grains, root vegetables. Lentils, things like this. They're dry. They have a slightly drier quality and a firm quality, and this is the quality that helps strengthen the lungs, not a watery excess liquid quality, which congests the lungs and weakens the lungs. What else? Susceptibility to infections, particularly pertinent at this time. Always, you hear some people saying, well, if there's an infection going around, then I always pick it up. So I get flu every year. I'm getting colds all the time. And then other people are saying, well, I rarely get infections. It's really rare for me to get a cold. I rarely get flu. So why is this? This is not really explained in Western medicine. As marvelous as Western medicine is in many ways, particularly understanding how the physical chemical body works and dealing with a lot of acute and serious problems, it doesn't have a good understanding of health and how we can promote our health. So it can't tell people how do you strengthen your lungs so that you're much less likely to pick up an infection. So basically I've told you already how you can strengthen your lungs and strengthen your protection against picking up any kind of infection, colds, flu, or the coronavirus. So this information should be out everywhere. Unfortunately, it isn't. But if you're listening to this, take some steps. Come on this course starting tomorrow night. 6 steps to well-being, and we'll look at this in depth. So for each of the six classes, 2.25 hours long, we break in the middle to do some exercise, which is strengthening for each of the different systems. For each of the evenings, you get a good watch of notes sent to you, including a bunch of recipes which are particularly good for those organ systems, and some exercises which you can do at home and use yourself as well. So I hope this gives you a good insight into this course. I've been running it for about 1.5 years now. It's been pretty popular because it gives, if you really want to learn a lot of really good information, which gives you lots of practical ways of improving your health and healing a lot of common health problems, then this would be a great course for you. It's all recorded as well, so that if you have to miss one, then we send you the recording afterwards, and you can listen to the recording. Obviously, you won't get the chance to ask questions, but you'll hear other people's questions. So if you look at the information that comes with this Facebook Live, you'll see a link to this course. It'd be really, really great to see you on the course. It provides such a good kind of blueprint for how you can improve your health. Financially, I'm just thinking, we're always flexible financially. If you find the course fee too much, then just tell us, get in touch. You can pay it over 2 or 3 months. You can break up the payments. We're not really bothered. We do need the money to support the school and everything going on here. But if you're keen to do the course and you can't make one payment, and I know a lot of people are struggling right now, then just email us, info@macroschool.co.uk, and let us know, and we're very, very happy to break it up into 3-4 monthly payments to make it possible for you. We just want to get this good information out to as many people as possible. Okay, thank you very much for listening. I hope to see you soon.